Oh, Pearson gets into the 95 of Fultz. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Morcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Now, as we've got three wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
They're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let it go very far.
Go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
See just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
Smooth stuff. Cody Graham's the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, just insane.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Old Bastards Racing League. We are here for Memorial Day weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway, here with the Kimball Cup Series. I am Gareth McAllister with Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action in 1080p and 60 frames a second, provided my good old Australian internet can survive to do as much. And we have a fairly nice turnout of about 32, I believe, vehicles. We will see an exact number as we roll out the grid later on for you. But at the moment, we've got qualifying going underway. And it's looking pretty racy right now. As we bring up the timing sheet for you, only about 12 cars have made their way around. Brian Glass just setting a 9th position style lap there. As we check on board with the 87 machine. I wonder if he's going to go for one more quick lap. It looks like he's kept the hammer down here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. But looking pretty fast for the moment indeed, as he tries to make his way around this 1.5 mile oval. And advances his spot up into the top 5. So great job from Brian Glass there. Currently leading Lloyd Moore, sitting at the top of the standings. Troy Baker coming in with a 4th position. As we watch with Mark Fish to see if he can increase his position from 14th into 12th, and does so. And backing down ever so slowly as we are going to take a quick look at Daniel Edgren. Now, he's one of these drivers that only recently qualified to achieve his double number status from being a triple-digit driver for a little while. And he has worked his way into the hearts and minds of all spectators here watching in the OBRL, including definitely making me take notice, as he is trying to make his way around the track as fast as possible. We have 180 laps in store for you tonight. So definitely quite a lot of action coming your way. Pit speed is about 30 miles an hour. And in practice, we were hitting around about 180, maybe 181, 182 here or there miles an hour around Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's 1.5 mile oval, definitely allowing for some very excessive speeds with its 24 degrees of banking, helping these drivers to turn in the corner and carry as much speed as possible onto the back straightaway as well as the front straight, with its almost a D shape in the oval there, as you can see as Edgren crosses the line just there, sitting in the 19th position. Doesn't look like he was able to advance that, unfortunately, so he may be starting a little bit further back in the pack. As we are going to take a quick look at Joshua Robinson, as this was the guy who won the All-Star race last weekend. If you didn't check that race out, definitely give it a watch. It was a fantastic race here tonight. Oh, not here tonight. It was a fantastic race last week, I should say, excuse me, where Joshua Robinson managed to work his way all the way from the back and sneak in to win it all in the All-Star race here only 1 week ago. So all drivers definitely getting a little bit of experience with the car underneath them, as Joshua Robinson doing exactly what he did last week and finding himself setting the fastest lap of qualifying with a 30.29. So that is about as fast as we'll probably see all night long. And we get ready to roll through the grid here. As we bring up the grid for you now. So Joshua Robinson is going to be starting on pole for tonight's event. Lloyd Moore in the second position alongside, with Greg McDaniel and Dan Hill in the third and fourth positions. Dan Hill having a few internet issues last week, hopefully correcting those this week, as Courtney Nelson and Clay Walker come into the fifth and sixth positions. Tom Ogle alongside Troy Baker are going to be starting in our fourth row. Chris Bates with Michael Watts in the fifth row. Michael Watts showing a lot of promise last weekend. We'll see if he can work his way through up to the front once again this weekend coming now, as we get ready to see also Cameron Chaussee and Brian Glass in our sixth row, starting in the 11th and 12th position. Cycling it on back. In at 13th, Jonathan Green with Shane Wiesman in at 13th and 14th. Brian Lindsay and Brian McRubbin, the two Brians, going to be starting side by side, with Dwayne MacArthur and Dean Gear going to be starting in our 9th row. 10th row, Michael Dow and Mark Fish, along with Wayne Hufford and Daniel Edgren, as we said. Speaking of making his way into a double-digit drive, as he is going to be starting in our 11th row. Kermit Gentry Jr. and Victor Ryan bringing it home in our 12th row. As we keep cycling on back, Bruce Pearson going to be in the 25th position, with John Hastings along in 26th. Mark Schrader and Chris Clark in the 14th row. In our 15th row, Alan Wanamaker and Larry Corey are going to be side by side, with Jeff Miller and Henry Besaw are going to be rolling around in our 16th row, with our 31st and 32nd finale positions. So that has been a little bit of a rundown through the grid as we prepare for the action here tonight. We're going to see a lot of fast driving from a lot of these guys, and it's going to be a good one. So the old bastards getting ready and lined up. We always see big grids here for the Kimball Cup Series, and this is no exception. Jeremy Mayo, Pac-Man, CT, Dustin Martinson, all joining us from the spectator area. It is fantastic to have you, seeing your support and hoping you're showing a lot of support for the drivers on track. I'm sure they're very much appreciative as I try to get words from my brain towards my mouth. So Joshua Robinson is going to be starting on pole, and we will see as he takes this one to green. The restart zone is right there as we head underway here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Joshua Robinson takes a nice dive down the inside of Lloyd Moore. McDaniel follows just along suit. It looks like Nelson is not going to be too far behind as well, as Courtney Nelson is trying to make his way on that low side line. Definitely seems to be the preferred line, at least on the very first restart of the night. We'll see if that high line can work its way through, but Lloyd Moore carrying a whole bunch of speed way up high, using all of the banking possible and managing to get back the spot he lost to Greg McDaniel early on in order to make that spot back into the second place position. Courtney Nelson under fire from Dan Hill. Those two sorting themselves out. We have to look back a little ways, all the way. Oh, we're going to have to look back even further than we were expecting now. It looks like Shane Wiseman, no, just in front of him is going to be the first side-by-side battle for the moment. Cameron Chaussee falling a little bit behind Brian Glass on that outside line, as Greg McDaniel actually Brian Lindsay sets the fastest lap of the race. I know we're only 2 laps down, but when you consider that he's in 13th position so far, Brian is absolutely blitzing it in 12th now. continuing to use the draft to his absolute advantage up into the 12th place spot right now, sporting a very different livery to what we're used to seeing on that 24 machine. Quite a number of battles happening on track at the moment, closest of which going to include Dwayne MacArthur as he looks underneath Shane Wiseman, and it looks like he's going to be able to make that pass. He has red numbers on his machine. Very, very standoutish. As right behind him, not too far behind, Jonathan Green, also sporting some green numbers. These drivers definitely wanting to be seen here tonight. We are not going to miss them. So it looks like Daniel Edgren is trying to make some moves on Michael Dow just in front. Just try and be quiet next time they come through. See if you can hear the roar of the engines as they rocket past our scenic camera just then. Shane Wiseman in a battle once again. Jonathan Green trying to make that move. There you go. What a beautiful sound, if I do say so myself. As it looks like Lloyd Moore up in the lead at the moment has set the fastest lap of the race. A 30.54, and Josh Robinson looking right behind is trying to take advantage of that draft as much as possible. So we'll see if Robinson can make a battle for the lead. Speaking of Courtney Nelson, was right behind Greg McDaniel just for a split second there. Dan Hill is right alongside the back bumper of him as well. As I say that, he does actually make it alongside. The 7 machine going to try and pass the 30 here on that low side line. Definitely seems to be the preferred way around the circuit tonight, as it is the shorter way around. Not quite carrying as much speed though as Courtney Nelson on that high side line, so Courtney's still able to keep it together. See if Dan Hill can make that pass stick or not. He's trying to get the draft mid-corner from Greg McDaniel just in front, and does so. And look who's working his way through, Mr. Ogle himself. As Tom Ogle makes that pass look absolutely seamless into the top 5 spots. So we've had a little bit of a breakaway with our top 7 drivers, and there is a tiny little gap behind Clay Walker to Chris Bates in 8th. And he is trying desperately to hang on to this front group, while Michael Watts is in the 9th position, hoping that they don't file too far away from him as well. As we're going to rock around with Tom Ogle. So you can just hear there the amount of RPMs that these drivers are running. You can see the little dial, 3.4, 3.5, 3.7. And caution has come out. We have a yellow flag on track. Reports of Jeff Miller being involved in an incident. That is not going to be good. Oh, we're going to have to back that one up. That looks like some heavy contact there. I believe that's the 31 machine of Henry Besaw. So we'll see just what happened to make this one unfold and bring out our first caution of the night. Oh, too much apron. The 68 of Jeff Miller gets loose. I believe that's the 31 of Henry Besaw coming through, or attempting to make it. Jeff just struggling with the back end, not able to hold it. No, that was the 91 machine, excuse me. So the 91, that's Chris Clark involved in that one. So massive, quite large actually hits there. A very quick replay in real time so you can get an idea of the ferocity of just how bad this one ended up being. Just a very heavy hit, especially for Chris Clark in that 91 machine getting pressed into that wall. Thankfully not a massive amount of damage though, as the 68 of Jeff Miller manages to keep it underneath him and not getting involved too much as we have. What has happened here? We just witnessed, was that Courtney Nelson? I believe it was. What happened to Courtney Nelson? Just as we go back live, coming out of pit lane, what has happened here? All drivers coming out of pits after just taking all 4 tires, getting more. What in the world was the cause of that? Alright, we're going to have a different camera angle on this one. So what happened here? It almost looked like he just hit a bump in the road. What? Alright, we have a mystery. Someone has thrown a stone out on track or something. What has happened? That is absolute heartbreak. Jeremy Mayo saying could shift down instead of up. Dustin Martinson saying too much throttle. Potentially the case. Try and see if we can get a quick jump on board here. That's not a good image. And see if we can listen in. Oh yeah, right as he upshifted. That's where the problem began. It looked like some other drivers may have almost contacted. No, just everyone checking up to allow him to come back on track. So Courtney Nelson having a very different issue that I'm not used to seeing out on track. Definitely spoofed me up here in the booth. Dustin Martinson letting us know that there is a slight bump off of pit lane, and if there wasn't proof of that, I don't know what that was proof of that I just witnessed, because there was definitely a bump there. And that probably compounded the issue as much as humanly possible. So Alan Wanamaker is actually starting alongside Lloyd Moore. Wanamaker deciding not to come down pit road, and starting up the front here tonight in our 14th lap after our first caution. So we're going to see how well that works out for Wanamaker. His tyres are only 14 laps older as we go 3 wide for just a brief moment. Wanamaker is caught in the absolute middle, almost gets into the side of Ogle, just barely avoiding that 11 machine, and is now checking up that high line. We were not sure if tyre wear was going to be a huge factor here, and we are definitely wondering if that is the case right now, as Wanamaker absolutely checking up the Fox machine. I believe that is Dean Gear, and it is. And he was checked up on that high side, desperate to change lanes here, it looks like, and we've got smoke out on track. It looks like no one was involved in anything, so I'm not quite sure where the smoke has come from, just residual from pit road. Quite potentially, as it looks like we've got a car in the wall a little bit further back as well, just rubbing on the outside there. I believe that was Daniel Edgren, may have been rubbing the wall on that high side across the checkered line. We have an absolute abundance of action as we go back to Wanamaker. He's dropped down to the 10th place so far. Brian Glass trying to make his way into that top 10th spot, and does so as Wanamaker is still 18 spots to the good on when everyone else came down pit road. So still a net gain, and quite a major one at this point in the race. We'll see how long that lasts. And if we go green, that will affect him a whole lot as Brian Lindsay there trying to make his way around. We got another caution. Daniel Edgren, the commentator's curse, rearing its ugly head. What happened here to Daniel Edgren? Looks like, oh, it was just a coming together of two machines. And, oh, it didn't look like too major at first, but that 17 machine definitely got spun and bore the brunt of that contact. So that's 17 belonging to Larry Corey there. Good job from all the rest of the drivers really avoiding that one. That was definitely a hard one, especially Jeff Miller on that high side. Very lucky to avoid that incident as it unfolded. Jump on board with Courtney Nelson during this one. Little bit of a contact there, and Courtney going all the way down to the apron to avoid that incident. Great awareness from Courtney Nelson there. As all drivers coming down pit road, I say all, top 10 staying out, including Josh Robinson, Greg McDaniel, Dan Hill, Chris Bates, Dwayne MacArthur, Cameron Chaussee, Jonathan Green, Ryan Lindsay, Kermit Gentry Jr., and Michael Watts. Your top 10 drivers all deciding that, you know what, we haven't used a whole lot of tyre yet. It's only been about 5 laps. We're going to save them. So that is the aim of the game for these top 10 drivers. Lloyd Moore has come down pit road. Once again, getting some fresh rubber underneath him. We'll see if 5 laps is going to be really enough to make a whole heap of difference. The biggest winner in that one, definitely Alan Wanamaker. Dropped down to the 15th position, but still quite a ways ahead. Exactly 14 positions ahead of where he started this race. Thanks to that gamble paying off of not pitting the first time by. Well, 20 laps down and 2 cautions already. Now remember, these drivers in the OBRL, the Old Bastards Racing League Kimball Cup Series, have a maximum incident limit of 7x, which will weed out these drivers and hopefully clean up some of the driving that has been happening. Not that it's been happening too bad at the moment. Obviously, it's just been a series of unfortunate accidents. You know, racing definitely has that going for it on the odd occasion. And you know, every race is different, so you don't know exactly how it'll end up. But I will say that that 7x is definitely going to play on some of these drivers' minds. And it definitely cleans up the action very quickly. If we do go for a full green flag run, fuel window is around about 64 to 70 laps, give or take. So we should see some drivers coming down, I believe, 2 times before the end of this one. 2 more times. As I do some quick math in my head. And that seems to be 100% accurate. So Josh Robinson, Greg Hill going to be starting in your front row with Chris Bates and Dan Hill in your second row. Wayne MacArthur and Cameron Chaussee, as I say it right for the first time tonight, once again, are going to be in your third row. I do have to apologize to Cameron Chaussee at some point for constantly butchering that name. as I often talk about him because he's one of these drivers that always finds himself involved in a lot of action here at the OBRL Kimball Cup Series. Now the pace car's lights are off and we get ready to rock and roll once again. And here we go, we're under green once more. As Greg McDaniel and Joshua Robinson definitely fighting for that top spot right now. McDaniel will have the run on that high side. Will he be able to make that move? Uses all of the high side all the way up to the wall as much as possible and makes it stick for the moment. See if he can manage in turns 3 and 4 and does so. So McDaniel up to the front. And he's going to sit there for a little bit, I would imagine, as Josh Robinson, one of those drivers, never wanting to push the issue too hard, too quickly, and ever a great tyre saver. As we go back a little bit further in the field, Tom Ogle was certainly one that we were wanting to watch as he is making his way through the field right now. He is the first driver on brand new tyres since that last caution, as opposed to the 5-lap older ones of Michael Watts just below on that low side there, and just in front and above on that in front of that 11 machine. So Tom Ogle gonna see just the difference in that 5 tyres makes, and it doesn't look like it's a whole lot at the moment as Brian Lindsay makes a move to the inside of Cameron Chosey. Not able to make that one work for the moment. Chosey did check up a little bit. We'll see if Lindsay has a bit of a goer. And it looks like Ogle is going to take advantage of that exact thing, as Jonathan Green has a little bit of a bobble just in front of him. Just having a look at Jonathan Green's paint scheme. And we want to give a shout out and a thank you to all the men and women who serve with not only the US Defense Forces, but every Defense Force as well, as I can also say in the Australian Defense Force. Very proud I am of those helping out there as well for this Memorial Day weekend here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it's looking like we're well representing the Stars and Stripes here tonight. Jonathan Green and I think Michael Watts, looks like his paint scheme is representative very much there of that as well in a slightly different manner. But it looks like Brian Glass may have hit some wall slightly higher up there as he falls back a little bit to the 16th position. And it looks like there is absolute pandemonium all over the track, and not in a bad way, as Jonathan Green is under fire from Lloyd Moore now. So Moore making that move, the Wonder White bread machine still continuing to put on a great show here tonight. Joshua Robinson is making a battle for the second place spot, or having one put against him, as the fast Canadian of Dwayne MacArthur once again finds himself up to the front. It's the first time he's been here tonight. Last week we did see that MacArthur was not able to come out to the circuit, join a lot of these other drivers in the All-Star event. So it should be interesting to see just how much of practice that he has been able to do, but it looks like he's been able to do enough as he finds himself in the 3rd place spot right now, fighting alongside Josh Robinson, and they have both caught the back of McDaniel. Where is McDaniel going to go? He blocks the inside of MacArthur instead of the high side. Will Robinson be able to take advantage with no one in front? It doesn't look like it's going to be able to do it, so MacArthur gets a nice run off on the inside line. And he might get the tow from McDaniel just ahead. Does take over the second position just for the moment. They're still staying side by side here. This is anyone's game as MacArthur gets a little bit more of a run on that low side line heading into the corner. But McDaniel's on that high side, keeping Robinson relevant. As MacArthur is able to make that pass, Robinson's going to have to get back in line. And the battle for second has sorted itself out. And you can see, during all of that battling, look who's made his way into the fourth position, closing it in very quickly. Tom Ogle, that 11 machine. JW joining us in the spectator area as well, saying this is quite a long race, and he is absolutely right. 180 laps. We've had 2 cautions so far, but it looks like it's going to be a good one at the moment as Dwayne MacArthur takes over the lead. So MacArthur up 16 spots in twice the number of laps. Robinson peeks to the inside of McDaniel, thought about making a move, decided against it. Ogle went a little bit high into the corner, but trying to cut down. I wonder if that's almost a strategy call. It looks like he's carried a whole heap of momentum off the corner. Right on the back bumper of Robinson. Will he push Robinson a little bit closer to this front pack? No, decides to do what he's been doing. Entering corner quite high into turns 1 and 3. And then diving down between the 2 corners into turns 2 and 4. And seeming to carry a little bit more speed. Or did seem like it last lap. This lap, not sure if it's been able to work as well as he intended. So Robinson seems to have built a tiny bit of a gap there. As Ogle does make a little bit more of an impasse on it. But not quite at the moment enough to really challenge that position. We cycle it on back just briefly. Kermit Gentry Jr. was finding himself in a side-by-side battle with Courtney Nelson, now under fire from Wayne Hufford. Yeah, he's fighting right now for the 17th position. Going to be checked up a little bit just by Jonathan Green in front. Wayne Hufford's going to be very happy to see that in the 75 machine as he takes advantage and makes his way through. Along with Wanamaker also trying to keep Gentry stuck on that high line. As we're making sure not to miss any of the action up front. Still a little bit of a gap between the 2 drivers of MacArthur and McDaniel. Hufford now able to pass Jonathan Green for that 16th place position. It looks like Joshua Robinson has an Ogle creeping up on the back of him, as well as getting closer and closer to McDaniel once again. Ogle and Robinson, we know these 2 drivers are teammates, but whenever they get close together, it definitely turns out to be an interesting moment, as both these drivers are competitors first and foremost, as well as teammates. They know how to drive well together, but also well separately. As the 11 machine tries to make something going on the high side. Wow, what a move, as he looks like he's going to be able to make that pass. As Ogle is going to have the draft down the straightaway as well, so makes the pass on Robinson. Ogle up into 3rd. Absolutely ripping up that high side. Looks like it's got a little bit more speed at the moment. He's going to see if he can carry it. Josh Robinson backs off just a tad bit, wondering if tyre saving is definitely at the corner front of his mind at the moment. As Ogle makes a move on McDaniel. McDaniel protecting that high side line as he has done so many times in the past. And absolutely destroying the momentum of Ogle just behind. So that has worked out incredibly well for him so far. We cycle it on back to the 11th position. Chris Bates also got some stars and stripes there. Clay Walker is going to make that move though. Try and get the 9 up. The 2 car, I should say, sorry. a little bit higher up in the field, but not able to do so at the moment. So they file back into single file lines. As Walker does make the dive bomb into turn 1. Not going to be able to do it. Wiseman also tried the same thing behind glass. Not too far behind. Walker does make that move now. So Bates fallen back one spot. Brian Glass is going to be saying, oh yeah, I'll take that as well. Brian Glass in the Kodak machine is going to try and attempt to take over that spot. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to do it. So the 11th spot is still going to be the 12th place spot still very much contested as Bates shuts the door. Cycling it back further still, Ryan McRubbin right behind Wanamaker, trying the outside line. We're going to see if it's going to pay off, but it doesn't look like it, as Kermit Gentry Jr. is actually quite a little bit slower on that high side lane. And that is going to allow Wanamaker to try and make that pass, and McRubbin wants to follow on suit as quick as possible. That Duff-backed machine. Oh, and there's a little bit of an issue as Mark Fish has a little bit of a bobble, able to keep it underneath him and point it in the right direction. Great reaction from Mike Fish to not make that situation any worse. As we look back at the battle we were taking a look at just before, Chris Bates with Brian Glass and Shane Wiesman all pretty close together as Wiesman tries to make that move on Glass. '69 machine trying very desperately to get past the 87. It looks like a little bit of contact may have occurred there. Nothing untoward happening between the two drivers, though, as luckily as Courtney Nelson almost getting too much apron. Gonna have to be careful of that, as that has caused issues for a driver before. We saw that caused caution number 1. So we're starting to see a lot of single file packs forming up. We have from 1st to 4th in a fairly tight battle, MacArthur, McDaniel, Ogle and Robinson. And then there's about a 1.5 gap from Josh Robinson to Dan Hill, Lloyd Moore and Brian Lindsay. And about another 2.5 to Cameron Shosey and Michael Watts, who are both battling for that 8th place position. And it looks like Michael Watts is going to be able to take that spot away. So Watts is going to be leading the pack now. It looks like Troy Baker was a little bit slow on the exit of turn 4 there. So going to be absolutely chewed up by quite a number of drivers right now. As Walker and Wiesman, it looks like, are going to try and make that pass. And does so. So Wiesman up another spot. And I almost wonder if Baker has a bit of an issue, as he looks to be a little bit slower than some of the other drivers around him. Chris Bates coming to try and make that spot. So that's James Waldo joining us in the commentary booth. Well, in the spectator booth, not in the commentary booth, I should say. Although that's probably not a bad idea if you're interested. As Clay Walker has taken over the 9th place position so far. He's actually made his way ahead of Cameron Shosey. And this makes me wonder if tyre wear drivers are going to make their way further up the field, because Michael Watts, definitely one of those drivers, like we talk about week in and week out. He makes his way through the pack slowly and steadily, and saving tyres as he does so. Clay Walker just behind, another driver who does save tyres quite well. And It seems like we're seeing that come into play right now. That is going to be very interesting to see with the front pack here. Because Josh Robinson, the maestro at tyre saving, I guess he's pretty content here to sit behind this pack of drivers. This lead group of 4 have absolutely just gone away from Dan Hill in the 5th position. Just chucked on the afterburner button and away they go, as it looks like McDaniel pulls off to the outside, letting Ogle by. I wonder if McDaniel's feeling those tyre wear, that tyre wear factor coming into play a little bit harder than he was expecting. Just wanting to save every bit of rubber on that machine. As I say that, it looks like he hasn't let him go at all, as McDaniel and Ogle continue to fight. So the 1 and the 1-1, just to try and be a tiny bit funny here in the booth, are going to be fighting for the 2nd place position at the moment. And we're going to get a good look at this battle as we ride on board the nose of Joshua Robinson's machine. See, riding right on the back bumper of Ogle, using that air to push Ogle's car forward. But it doesn't seem to be enough, as McDaniel has a lot of a run on that high side lane. That is quite a good shot, especially if you like the rear end of a car. Getting a nice, good close-up of that. As it looks like these two drivers still just can't make up their mind of who wants to take that position away. And all this is doing, guess who is checking out? Wayne MacArthur building up a lead. 9/10, stretching out the gap. Stretching it out to almost a full second here now, as Ogle and McDaniel continue to have this battle for the 2nd spot. So these two just cannot get away from each other. So it looks like MacArthur has caught some lap traffic there. Able to make his way around without any sort of issue. Lap traffic at the moment running on the high side. How will that affect McDaniel as he is running that high side? Definitely can go 3 wide here at Charlotte, but not something the drivers want to do. And you can see right there, the pick was used to absolute perfection. Robinson and Ogle using that machine of Larry Corey to cement themselves into the 2nd and 3rd spots. And McDaniel is going to have to deal with it, as Dan Hill has really come into his own now as well. You can see him catching up quite quickly. I'm not mistaken. Yes, that is what I thought it was. The number 7 machine paying tribute to the US Air Force as well here tonight. And he is absolutely flying as he is catching up to the rear bumper of Greg McDaniel. Traveling actually the same speed last time by as Dwayne MacArthur, up in the 1st place position. So Dan Hill is on a mission. As we try and look at the timing sheet last time by, we'll see if we can update you. 31.48, actually a full 10th faster than MacArthur in front at the moment. That could definitely be down to drafting off of McDaniel's rear bumper, but he doesn't seem to mind it making that much of an issue, because he is absolutely on a tear. Look at him hug that low side line and absolutely just monster Greg McDaniel on that high side. So the Moose machine is going to have to back up just a little bit there, as the Air Force continues to work its way towards the front. Looks like we have an Ogle Robinson. I wanted to say battle. These two teammates, they're very used to doing this, where one will draft behind the other. We see this week in and week out from these two. They hang around each other towards the front of the field, and they will sit right on each other's back bumper, just trying to push each other a little bit faster around this oval circuit and every other one they visit. But that's going to be a mighty push as MacArthur is just ripping it around. Ogle and Robinson definitely taking a little bit longer time to get around in the track so far, as MacArthur continues to put time up on Ogle in second position. Traffic not getting to be in the way, which is great news for Dwayne MacArthur sitting in the first position. Now remember, our lap calculator for the fuel window is 60 to 70 laps or thereabouts. However, we have had a couple of cautions coming out already tonight. Dwayne MacArthur last pitting in lap 11, so expect to see him coming down. I would say around about lap, we had a caution in the middle of that, so I'd say around about lap 85 or so. For lack of an actual idea, that is a very rough estimate, but between lap 80 and 90, I would say is a decent assessment. Worth keeping in mind, actually, now that I've just reminded myself, Tom Ogle last came down to pit on that second round of pit stops, lap 18, so he actually has 7 laps more fuel than Dwayne MacArthur in front and Josh Robinson behind. The next driver on the same fuel strategy as Tom Ogle will have to go back to Lloyd Moore in the 6th place position, a little ways further down the road. And there's the move. Josh Robinson deciding it is go time, as these two drivers exchange the amount of air pressure on the front of their machines. As we're going to cycle it on back for something a little bit more interesting, because we are side-by-side racing with Brian Lindsay and Courtney Nelson. Nelson does take that spot, but it did look like Lindsay had a bit more of a run. I believe lifted just a little bit. Nelson with a little bit of a bobble though, coming out of turn 4. That looked a little bit dicey for a second. Thankfully nothing untoward happening though, as Nelson finds himself up into the 12th place position. Wayne Hufford not too far behind this battle as well. Wayne Hufford and Dwayne MacArthur, the only two Canadians coming out here tonight, representing the good old Maple Leaf. Looks like Hufford is catching up to Lindsay quite quickly. Hufford, one of those drivers getting better and better every single week. And you can definitely see that out of that 75 machine. Making the move on that inside lane. Carrying a lot more speed than Brian Lindsay right now. Does make that pass. Goes up the racetrack just a little bit there though. Able to make it stick. So the race definitely calmed down quite a lot from what we had earlier on. Green flag pit stop's definitely going to throw a spanner in the works of that though, as Lindsay has, I believe, probably chewed up their tyres just a little bit too much, and that is what we are seeing right now. as it looks like falling off the pace ever so slightly, allowing McRubbin in the Duff Beer Machine to close the gap and having to lift very minutely, as that looked very close to spinning out Brian Lindsay just in front. So these two Brians actually started right next to each other on the grid, not separated. And here they are once again finding themselves quite close, as Michael Watts is going to find himself in trouble as Shane Wiesman has closed that gap big time. Just got word that McRubbin and Lindsay have changed spots. McRubbin has taken that position away. So McRubbin into the 14th place right now, as Brian Lindsay is going to start off our round of pit stops. In comes Brian Lindsay. So we're going to see if that signals to everyone else. Pit stops are underway. As we look and check in with Cameron Chosey in the 10th place position, because Chris Bates was looking very, very close indeed to making a move, but wasn't able to do so. We have some nice solid racing happening all over the field. Let's talk about Bruce Pearson. We haven't seen a whole lot of him. He has been sporting a brand new paint scheme as well for tonight's event. Let's take a look at this. Look at this one, a closer look. Looks like that says mission with the 22, the number of his car as the S's. That's quite clever. As he's ripping it around in the 20th position right now. But it looks like he's still just getting into his stride, as green flag pit stops definitely underway. Hufford, Green, Wiesman, Watts, Moore, McDaniel, and MacArthur. Your race leader has come down pit road. Have to see where he files out. As pit stops definitely underway for the moment. Clay Walker has just come down. As you can see, MacArthur's just made his way out. Cameron Chosey has just come down. Chris Bates, Courtney Nelson, Mark Schrader, all coming down pit road for the moment. John Hastings joining them from the 11th position, as well as Bruce Pearson, who we were just had the camera pointed at. Clay Walker. We're going to have to see. Josh Robinson, he loves to drive as long as physically possible before those fuel reserves get to 0.001 of a gallon. So we're going to see just how frugal he has been with throttle movements, and if he can make this one last just as long as we see time and time again. Looks like he may be... No, he's deciding not to come down this time. Pit road here, it must be said, quite a difficult pit road, especially when you are in traffic, as a whole bunch of cars around you are going to make it very difficult. You have to slow down while you are still on the racing surface, as Brian Glass makes his way down pit road from the 5th place position. So he's definitely going to give up that spot. Michael Dow takes over that position now, as it looks like Robinson is coming down this time. Getting the car slowed down just in time, it looked like. So doing a great job of making sure not to get a penalty. So Tom Ogle takes over the race lead for the moment and almost getting rear-ended there by the Tide machine. That's John Hastings in the 32 Tide machine. That was very, very close indeed. I'm sure Ogle not too happy about how close that one was. We're going to see if Dwayne MacArthur is going to be out in front of Robinson. There is Dwayne making that pass because there's Robinson. Coming in early, definitely paying off at the moment. McRubbin's come down pit road. Only 4 drivers in the field who have not come in to serve their stop. Ogle, Hill, Dow, and Fish. Excuse me. Had a little bit of a problem there. So Ogle continuing just to make some laps. And this is... It's almost at this point, it may actually hurt Tom Ogle a little bit more than saving him. As it looks like these drivers... Yeah, there we go. Ogle coming in with a little bit too much steam. Locks up the brakes. I hope that didn't result in any kind of penalty. As you can see, Mark Fish just ahead is also down pit road. And Dan Hill is going to take over the lead. So we'll keep an eye on where MacArthur is relative to Ogle, as Ogle is still down pit road. Dan Hill coming down as well now. Michael Dow taking over as the race leader. So MacArthur and Robinson have both passed Ogle, as well as Clay Walker and Greg McDaniel. Ogle staying out potentially a little bit too long here. He also loses a spot to Lloyd Moore as he's still catching up to speed, is where I was trying to go with that thought. Michael Dow makes it one more time. Michael Dow in the 60 machine, up 18 spots, sitting in the top right now, and he is going to, I would imagine, Michael Dow is going to stay out as long as possible at this point. He last came in lap 18. We have a 60 to 70 lap fuel window thereabouts. So we'll have to have a look if this White Castle machine decides to come down pit road right now. No, continues staying out. So at this point, Michael Dow's best hope, I would say, is to stay out as long as possible and hope a caution comes out, allowing him to come down and get fresh tires, as well as staying on the lead lap, because he is definitely going to lose it once he comes down, as MacArthur makes his way around and takes the race lead back. That is definitely going to be the signal for Michael Dow to come down pit road and serve his stop. As just passing him a moment ago, you could see Clay Walker and Greg McDaniel toe to toe right now. I have to say, the biggest winner of the green flag pit stop so far has to be Clay Walker. Coming out in the 3rd place position in that number 2 machine. Just in front of Greg McDaniel that we are currently looking at. And the reason why he's the biggest winner, he stayed out one extra lap over McDaniel and still ended up making his way onto the track ahead of McDaniel himself. And that is a very, very rare feat. You typically see the drivers who come down a little bit earlier will gain a bit more of an advantage, as long as it's not too early in the run, of course. See, Michael Watts just made his way around Shane Wiesman for the 7th place position. Chris Bates also there. Dan Hill not too far behind. This is shaping up to be quite a big battle. As Wiesman is side by side with Chris Bates right now. And Hill also going to be pushing the bumper of Chris Bates to the lead on this battle. If Bates can get into that 8th place position, Hill's going to be very happy to see that, as Hill wants to take advantage as well, and does so. As Dan Hill is going to be side by side right now with Wiesman. Takes that spot away. I have to say, Dan Hill is probably the one that got hurt the most in those green flag runs. Or not in the green flag run, in the green flag pit stop, I should say. As he has only just made his way into the 9th position. When he pit, I believe, he pit from the front. However, he did stay out quite a number of laps more than all the drivers ahead, aside from Tom Ogle. Ogle currently running in the 5th position. Dan Hill making that pass again on Chris Bates, so up another spot. And Dan Hill has to be said. I know I've said his name like 3 times in the last 5 minutes, but he has been absolutely booking his way through the field. You can see once again, he has, as my friend and colleague would say, he has licked the stamp and sent it, as Dan Hill has made his way up 3 spots in just as many laps. That 7 machine is absolutely performing at the optimum rate right now. Looks like Clay Walker and Greg McDaniel just can't get away from each other. These 2 drivers are still locked in their battle for the 3rd spot. Should be said, manufacturer-wise, we've got a lot of Chevrolets, I believe, are the most popular car that have come out here tonight. Ford's in 2nd and the Toyota's in 3rd. However, Wayne MacArthur, Clay Walker, Greg McDaniel, all running Toyota Camrys, and they are running 1st, 3rd and 4th, with Josh Robinson and Tom Ogle the other 2 places in the top 5 in 2nd and 5th. Both running Fords, with Lloyd Moore being the leading Chevrolet, the 6th place position right now. So we're just over halfway through this race. Long green flag run right now. Just joined us, welcome. Glad to have you. And Dwayne MacArthur up in the front has a massive gap, 1.5 seconds ahead of Robinson, who has another quite large gap, well, even larger gap, to Clay Walker in the 3rd position, around about 6 seconds now. As Clay Walker continuing to get slowed down a little bit by this battle, with McDaniel right behind that we are currently watching. Recycle it on back. Courtney Nelson locked in a bit of a tangle battle. Ryan Lindsay on the low side. 24 and the 30 going at it. Courtney Nelson carries a lot more momentum on that high side. A lot more momentum, that should be said. Cameron Chosey saw that move happen and thought, hey, I want a piece of that. As he makes his way. Try and make that move as well. and does so. So Cameron Chaussee has definitely made that move. Made it stick very well underneath Ryan Lindsay. You can see just the texture of the asphalt here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Beautiful looking circuit, it must be said. As Greg McDaniel has company, Tom Ogle has made his way up to McDaniel, makes that pass, and now has Clay Walker right in his sights. Ogle taking no prisoners as he makes his way past both drivers. One lap to make himself appear in the third place position. The field's super stretched out. You've got to ask yourself, if a caution comes out, MacArthur is going to be in a world of pain, as well as Joshua Robinson. But these two drivers have made such a huge gap on the field at the moment, it's really going to hurt their progress. And I know there's a bunch of mixed feelings about that. Well, if a caution comes out, it just brings the field back up together. I mean, what's the point of a driver making that much of a gap ahead of the field? Well, for this very reason, we have a nice long green flag run. You want that gap. And that's why I think it makes it very much more entertaining, as we don't know what's going to happen. And it would be very, very interesting indeed. Oval racing definitely trumps non-oval racing. You can't change my mind on that one. As McDaniel has made that move on Clay Walker and definitely made his way into the fourth position right now. He saw what Ogle did and wanted to follow exactly that. So Fish saying the report that he wrecked again. We are seeing Fish in pit lane. Not sure if we got a report of it. See if we can find it really quick, and then we can bring it to limelight. Just while we have a little bit more of a lull in the action. Fish probably didn't want to be on display, but here he is. See if we can find that action right now. Oh, yep. Hit the apron just a little bit. Car got unsettled. No, he was okay. Doesn't look like that was the issue. Alright, well. Not sure. It didn't actually come up on my screen, so live timing software, not entirely sure where you had that accident. But definitely an unlucky one for Fish here tonight, as we pan the camera back to live, and all of a sudden, what has happened? MacArthur and Robinson side by side. This is what we come here to see. As Robinson makes that pass, MacArthur is not going to be happy to see that machine go in front. 23 is so dominant on a long run. MacArthur is going to try everything while he's right there to stay in tow of Josh Robinson. So far, the gap increasing ever so slightly, especially in the middle of the corner. You can see that gap is increasing little bit by little bit. Robinson has figured something out. The All-Star race winner from last week, definitely showing the reason why he was in victory lane. As MacArthur trying desperately to close that gap, he may have to use some lap traffic to his advantage here. see just in front of Robinson, that's going to be Brian Glass. See if Robinson gets caught up a little bit in traffic right now. And he may do. We'll see what Brian Glass decides to do. No, Brian Glass is trying to make the move on that 51 machine. And does make it. So Victor Ryan goes another lap down. As Brian Glass is going to go his first lap down. And almost, it looked very, very interesting just there with Dwayne MacArthur. MacArthur looked like checked up just a tad little bit. Also looks like there's a bit of pace from Chris Clark just behind MacArthur as well. After that initial incident from Chris Clark, he seems to be having quite a lot of pace at the moment, seems to be doing alright for himself. Sitting in the 27th spot, still a little bit of a ways down the field, but certainly having not a bad day at all, especially considering the adversity he's had to deal with as Michael Watts. Looks like he's got company from Chris Bates. For the 8th place position. Chris Bates, interestingly enough, I'm not sure if he's as happy as Michael Watts is to sit right on wall there on that high side. Looked like he was just trying to leave a little bit of a leeway. Not sure exactly where the side of the car is relative to the wall, and I can tell you from my own experience that can be very, very scary. And as soon as you touch it, you are dumping speed. But Michael Watts, definitely one of those drivers who knows exactly where to position his car. See, not leaving a single gap. And also, it must be said, you leave a little bit too much of a gap between the wall and the car. As you can see, McRubin makes his way around Shane Wiseman for the 13th place position. If you leave too much of a gap between the car and the wall alongside of which it is running at speed, there is actually a little bit of air there, a pocket almost, that slows the car down, believe it or not. As if you are running right against that wall or far enough off of it, it won't affect you too much. But if you are running right at that sweet spot in between where you're just a little bit off the wall, but not so far enough that it's not going to take an impact, it will slow you down. I can't wrap my head around the exact science of it, but I can tell you it definitely exists. As Greg McDaniel and Clay Walker are still going at it, these two drivers. So a few retirees at the moment. We've got Bish in the 29th position, showing as out. Larry Corey in the 30th position is going to also have a quick retirement. Dean Gear and Henry Besaw are all out of this one. Jeff Miller will be our final car on track in the 28th position. As McDaniel and Walker not taking our eyes off this battle. It hasn't changed, but it's gotten slightly closer. As I wonder if Clay is just content sitting behind Greg for the moment. But Walker and McDaniel, they're falling back quite a ways to Ogle, who has found some speed in his 11 machine. Speaking of finding speed though, MacArthur has picked up the pace because he is trying desperately to keep Josh Robinson in his windscreen. And there you go, close the gap a whole heap just there, as Robinson looked like got checked up a little bit from lap traffic. And MacArthur right now will be licking his chops, hoping to take advantage of that to its fullest. And use that draft to catch right back up to Robinson. Just see the RPM, they're running almost 8,400 reps per minute. Those engines are screaming in these vehicles right now. As that was the 12 machine of Mark Schrader, who was only going a lap down for the first time. Definitely allowed to fight for that position, as Josh Robinson sees a little bit more lap traffic ahead, but has opened the gap to Dwayne MacArthur in second just a little bit more. Robinson last time by 2/10 quicker than MacArthur. See as they cross the line. Once again, last time by only 1/10, but still gaining that gap over MacArthur. There's the gap you can see right there. That's what 7/10 looks like. That's going to be Shane Wiseman just ahead. He's also going to be fighting for that lead lap spot in the 15th position. So how hard will he fight Robinson? Stays on the high side. Robinson's going to have to go low. And we'll see how this one shapes up. It looks like every time MacArthur is catching up. Every single time Josh Robinson finds a vehicle taking that high side line especially, seems like Robinson checks up ever so slightly, and MacArthur is able to gain almost half a second typically, it seems. Has to be said, Schrader has done a great job sticking on the back bumper of MacArthur as well, as he actually made his way around Wiesman just then. For the 15th position, Schrader up 12 spots. Our second biggest mover of the race, as our biggest mover sitting right there on screen in the second place position. Wayne MacArthur up 15 positions from where he started this one. Only 3/10 behind the leader. Troy Baker has come down pit road once again. We saw Troy Baker was the first car to start the pit cycles, I believe, last time by. And it looks like he's going to be starting them once again, as these drivers are going to try and find that sweet spot of making it all the way to the end of this race. Again, your window of 60 to 70 laps. So pitting now could be very interesting. If we stay green, that'll be right on the border of whether you'll be able to make it all the way. To absolutely ensure it, we will want to stay out just a few more laps here, as Courtney Nelson comes down pit road as well. Courtney Nelson coming down pit road from, I believe, the 13th position. And this is going to be very interesting. When does Josh Robinson pit? When does MacArthur pit? You can see Ogle way in the background. See him just make his way through. You can see McDaniel and Clay Walker as well in that battle that continues. They were just a little bit further back down the back straight as well. See smoke, that is from pit road. As these drivers either lock up their brakes to get down to pit road speed, or send the tyres spinning as quickly as possible to get up to speed once the jack falls. So MacArthur still behind Robinson, and this is where MacArthur has the advantage. Because MacArthur is in the second place position, he can dictate when he wants to pit. because Robinson realistically will have to stay out if he wants to keep this gap. He's going to have to stay out almost certainly as long as MacArthur, if not a little bit more, to solidify this. And it's really a game of chicken at this point. Wayne MacArthur can choose when he wants to come down, and once MacArthur makes that move to pit road, Josh has to come the next lap. If Josh doesn't come the very next lap, he is going to just lose time on MacArthur. So this is where it gets very, very interesting. As speaking of interesting, Josh Robinson once again got caught up in some traffic. That was Brian Lindsay there, just ahead. So once again, allowing MacArthur to close that gap just a little bit. As you can see, Schrader on Lindsay now, right behind MacArthur. Lindsay gets a little bit of a bump to the outside wall. Schrader thought about making the move. Sides against it for the moment. And there he goes to the inside. Looked like checked up just a little bit to make sure that move was going to be done cleanly, and it was. As Moore, Watts, Bates, Hufford all coming down pit road. All on the lead lap. Realistically, Robertson doesn't have to pit before MacArthur either. Robinson came down last time before, I should say, sorry, after, about 4 laps after MacArthur came in last time. So he has a little bit more room to play with in terms of fuel strategy as Dan Hill also comes down pit road, as well as Cameron Chosey from the 6th and 7th place positions. Jonathan Green as well coming down pit road. We have a caution to spice things up even further. Lloyd Moore. What has happened with Chris Bates? I saw as well just for a second there. Oh no. Welcome to the shake-up. As this one may have occurred on pit road. There's Moore in the Wonder White machine. Out of his pit stall. Let's see what happens here. Where is Bates? Oh, reminiscent of what we saw in caution number 2. Shifting at high rev, right around the bump, sending that 26 car spinning, careening to the inside lane, coming back into the... Oh no! Oh no! Caught between a rock and a hard place. The Wonder White machine, not sure where to go. Get off the racing surface. But as soon as you do that, you come onto the pit exit road. Absolutely nowhere to go for Chris Bates. Oh, that is brutal. Wayne Hufford very lucky. No one behind him to get into his rear bumper as he checked up to avoid. Wow. Oh, and then a second spin out of the Wonder White machine. Lloyd Moore, all sorts of troubles after that issue. Oh, man. We're going to watch this one more time. But we're going to watch it from in-car camera of... Can I not find him right now? Chris Bates. There he is. The gyro cam. Speed. Bit of a bar in the way. You can see the car up there. trying to stay low, and it just comes in, causing that collision. Oh, and the pace car getting very, very close indeed. So, as my grandma would say, throws the cat amongst the pigeons. That one does. So, that has absolutely thrown everything to the wind. The question of when MacArthur and Robinson will come down was answered for us. The question of will anyone be able to catch them was answered for us. This has definitely shaken up everything. The drivers who did not come down pit road before the caution, most of them decided not to come down once again. You can't blame them of that. Josh Robinson and Dwayne MacArthur still showing as your two leaders. They did both come down pit road, as well as Tom Ogle just behind them with Greg McDaniel alongside Ogle. Clay Walker and Mark Schrader now finds himself in the sixth position, in the third row. Up 21 spots is Mark Schrader. That's what we're being told. However, it looks like Schrader is going to be further back in the pack than anything else. Looks like Dan Hill is actually... No, is that Dan Hill? That's not Dan Hill either. These drivers are double file. Let's just do a quick check of the lights. Looks like they're out. I know which car that is, because that is the car of Daniel Edgren on that high side lane in the third lane next to Clay Walker. So an interesting problem with our timing tower, but we're going back to green regardless. Josh Robinson out in front. And it looks like MacArthur is going to try and fight very hard. MacArthur goes for a spin to the inside. Still spinning. Trying to hold it together. Smacks the inside wall. Holy... Oh! Having to refrain from using words. I don't know how to... Wow! So let's try our best to have a look at what went down here, because that definitely deserves analysis, if nothing else. Let's have a look. Coming out of turn 2, side by side, just gets loose all on his lonesome. Goes Dwayne MacArthur, spins it, holds on to it, looks good, comes back up the racetrack, change in surface, change in banking, 5 degrees here on the straightaways. Bang! Absolutely kaplowing the inside wall, coming back onto the racetrack, nothing can do about it. Straight into the path of the 64 machine. The 81 of Chris Bates gets involved. Wayne Hufford also gets a little bit of a hit. Now that 64 that was involved in the initial part of that one, absolutely nowhere to go. That was, I believe... Surely I can get not Michael Dow. It's the 84. That's why I was struggling. I was thinking, who's 64? Read the number wrong. And wow, that machine is absolutely torn up. We'll take another look at it at full speed and show you just the ferocity at which this one unfolded. That is a bit too far back. We're watching Michael Watts right now. See the smoke, there comes the wreck, straight up into the track. Nowhere to go for a lot of these drivers. Absolute heartbreak felt by Michael Watts, Dwayne MacArthur especially. Just two drivers bearing the absolute brunt of that one. Dustin Martinson making sure I'm doing my job correctly, constantly telling me who the numbers belong to. I do very much appreciate that. I must admit, on face value, I can look at a driver's paint scheme and just be like, yep, I know exactly who that is. Numbers take a little bit longer. And I'm not going to lie, my eyes aren't perfect, so sometimes a little bit hard to see. That's definitely something I'm slowly getting used to. As that wreck was a wreck. There was a very long thing happening. Very long wreck happening there. Mr. Martinson also letting us know, and we did see that on the replay as well. Bates got DQ'd for a 7x limit that had been reached during that wreck. It's so unfortunate because Bates had absolutely nowhere to go as well, as he was right behind the unfolding calamity and had a driver right behind him, really sandwiched in the middle. Absolute nowhere to go has been the name of this race here tonight, I reckon. Charlotte Motor Speedway definitely letting us know that it is no easy feat to get around here without any sort of dent, bump, scrape, or issue. But now we have Josh Robinson and Tom Ogle, the two teammates. They're going to be controlling both lead packs. Both lanes, I should say, as Clay Walker on the high side and Greg McDaniel on the low side in the second row. And Dan Hill and Jonathan Green. Now, Jonathan Green, the driver, very, very lucky to be able to avoid that massive, truly massive wreck. That was the big one that I didn't think we would definitely see here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, but there she was. I believe that is all she wrote for Dwayne MacArthur's machine. Such an unfortunate end for that 83 team. Their car was absolutely dominant for a lot of this time. The only one to really challenge Robinson for the lead on those long green flag runs. And ending in heartbreak here tonight. Josh Robinson and Tom Ogle going to be able to take us to green. Ogle going to have to be careful as he preempted the start a little bit too early. Josh Robinson waiting till the last moment before getting the go on that pedal as Ogle continues to hold that inside line. Manages to make that pass. McDaniel going to be very happy. What happened here? Clay Walker spears off to the inside. The green flag stays out though. We're going to take a look at that one as quickly as we can. This is back at the start. We'll try and speed this one up quickly. Oh, all on his lonesome, loses it, smacks the inside wall. It was a little bit of a bang a little bit early, further up as well. Clay Walker coming down pit road, unsurprisingly, as well as Mark Schrader, also coming down pit road. Not sure what happened to Schrader as well. He must have also had issues. That was Jonathan Green, by the way, that almost got caught up in the outside wall. We've got a yellow flag once again. Courtney Nelson now involved in an accident. Charlotte Motor Speedway is absolutely chewing them up and spinning them out here tonight. Courtney Nelson. See right there on that high side, it already looks like his car's a little bit wobbly. Oh, that was Wiseman underneath. A little bit involved. Hastings coming through in the tide machine. And thankfully, no one spinning out too much, causing too many issues, aside from, of course, Courtney Nelson facing the absolute wrong direction. That up one more time. This time in real time. Oh, it looked like Wiseman just came in with a whole head of steam. Didn't want to let go of it. Thought he could keep to the middle lane. Just was not able to do so. Perhaps Courtney Nelson came down a little bit. I'm not entirely sure. But look at this. Josh Robinson, Craig McDaniel. Ogle actually leading Robinson out. Hufford, Green also coming out. Dan Hill's down pit road. Brian Lindsay's down pit road. Here comes Brian Lindsay out of pit road. 24 machine. And Hill remains to get some repairs sorted out. Clay Walker and Courtney Nelson both unsurprisingly staying it down pit road as well. Hill making his way out just then. So what can we learn from that accident? Well, we can learn that these drivers are pushing to the absolute breaking point of this machinery, right on the edge of the grip level that they have been assigned to tonight's race. And I tell you what, it is getting spicy. Greg McDaniel with a 2-tire stop as well. It has to be said, what Greg McDaniel has decided, you know what, track position matters more than tires. Let's see if 2 tires is going to be the way to go. So I haven't said this race yet, and I apologize for that, but I will say it quite quickly now. Let us know. We have 14 people watching. Very much appreciative of that. Let us know who you're cheering on, which driver you are rooting for, and we will see if we can get a small spotlight on them. Let you know how they're running, how many positions they've gained or lost, and where they are out on track. Keeping in mind, if they are one of the drivers out on track still at the end of this one. Still have a very active and, I have to admit, quite humorous spectator area. So thank you very much to those involved. Austin Martinson coming in saying Wayne Hufford is due for a podium, and you know what? I couldn't agree with you more. Wayne Hufford doing a phenomenal job so far, as he does so often in that 75 machine, up 17 positions from where he started, currently sitting in the 4th position. We'll see. A podium is definitely looking likely for Wayne Hufford right now. And we hope we haven't put the moz on him, as we try and Australian the word for commentator's curse. But yes, as Wayne Hufford definitely, I couldn't agree with you more, is due for a great finish here tonight. Looking like he's going to be able to get one, so we can see and we'll watch that as it unfolds. So Greg McDaniel, Tom Ogle, Wayne Hufford, Josh Robinson, Brian Lindsay, your top 5, with Jonathan Green starting on the inside of Brian Lindsay there in the 3rd row. Get ready once again to send them out. Got less than 40 laps to go in this one. See just how interesting it can get. Pace car takes the left down pit road. Get ready to roll green. How long is Ogle going to wait to go? Looks like McDaniel's actually going to wait. That's right, McDaniel's starting on pole. Looks like he waited to go as much as possible. Ogle had to check up the inside line not to get in too much in front. And that's going to allow McDaniel to absolutely blitz past and take over the lead on that inside line. Right behind Robinson, underneath Hufford now, trying to get that 3rd place spot back from Hufford. Hufford not letting it go too easily, as these drivers are definitely close together, side by side racing. Robinson is going to take that spot away. Battle for the lead. Tom Ogle on the inside of McDaniel now. McDaniel ripping it around the high side, trying as hard as he can to keep the momentum going. Those 2 tires definitely getting a workout, but he does manage to make it stick, so he's stayed out in the 1st position as Ogle has to file in behind. Robinson coming up with a full head of steam. Wayne Hufford has Jonathan Green right behind. Dan Hill just passing Brian Lindsay there for the 6th place position as well. Looks like Hufford and Green got very close together. Thankfully, nothing doing there. They stay in the same spot, so Hufford in 4th. Looks almost like he had to check up just a little bit there to avoid getting into Robinson. Will Green take advantage? Not quite enough of a run, it doesn't look like. Could be right on the back bumper though. Fastest lap of the race just been set by Mr. Dan Hill in the 6th place position. A 30.28, that is unprecedented. We have not seen another lap time below 30.3. As I say that, I look at my sheet once again, and McDaniel set the exact same time last time by in your 1st position. McDaniel building up a tiny bit of a gap now on Ogle. These drivers have to remember they've still got 30 laps to go. It is not as short a stint as you would think so from when you're inside that car. 1.5 miles times 30, you do the math. There's still a while to go. As it looks like Jonathan Green is under fire from Brian Lindsay. Well, Brian Lindsay getting squashed to that high side wall, but sticking in the throttle and going to be able to take that spot away. Great determination from Brian Lindsay in the 24 machine, up 9 spots so far. Trailing behind Dan Hill now. Looked like Green got a little bit loose on the exit of 4. Cameron Chosey right there to try and take advantage. drivers absolutely ripping it around. It looks like Mark Schrader in the 12th position is also trying to make another spot on Michael Dow. As they go side by side. On the high side, Mark Schrader is in the 11th position now, making that pass and making it stick. I Wanamaker looking on, seeing if he can get himself involved in this one. As this is currently your closest battle on track right now. It's Michael Dow and Wanamaker. A little bit of a blip there. Apologies for that, as Alan Wanamaker tries to get as close as possible to Michael Dow on exit. Looks like Dow's got a much better entry though, much smoother line. That seems to carry his momentum in the middle of the corner. See if Wanamaker can actually make that pass for the 12th place spot, as they're both looking like they're going to pass Daniel Edgren. Is a lap down right now. Cycle it on back towards the front. Tom Ogle has dropped off of McDaniel ever so slightly. Robinson is closing the gap, but only slowly but surely. These two teammates are going to be feeling pretty good about their chances here. So Martinson also wondering what I'm wondering up here in the booth. Is the two-tire stop going to hurt McDaniel? So far it is paying dividends though, as he has not lost any sort of pace. In fact, continuing the pace where he left off earlier in the race. However, I am worried he does have a short run car set up here tonight. Ogle and Robinson showing as usual that they're great at the mid to long run, as well as the short run, it must be said. It's almost unfair, as Courtney Nelson is on that high side, staying well clear of the leaders. Great job and awareness from the 30 machine. So McDaniel now has company. Ogle has closed that gap significantly in the last couple of laps. How will this one play out? It is anyone's guess, as the defense is going to come into play big time, as Ogle checks up quite a lot. I'm not sure what's going on there. We're on the back bumper of Greg McDaniel now, looking on. See Ogle and Robinson like two sharks circling. They are waiting for a mistake from McDaniel. McDaniel doing everything he can to keep his car as fast as possible. And you can see Ogle almost opening up the door and showing us Josh Robinson just behind, like, hey, here's the guy. And the team is coming. Ford Mustang logo coming very, very close indeed to the rear bumper of McDaniel's machine. Closing the gap. You can see on the straightaways just how close and how effective that draft is, as they come closer and closer to the back bumper of McDaniel. Robinson is also in Ogle's tow. These two drivers definitely going to be doing something interesting in the next 20 or so laps. When are we going to make the move? That is the ultimate question. Debate in the spectator area happening right now. Is Josh Robinson AI? And is he a cyborg or is he human? It's a very good conversation to have. One that we definitely want to speak about in weeks to come. But Ogle is trying to make that move on McDaniel for the moment as he goes round on the high side. McDaniel not going to let him have it too easily as McDaniel fights back very hard. So McDaniel is not letting this one go without a fight. And rightfully so, as McDaniel, beamoose.org, is going to have to make himself just as big as one. Ogle has found his way around. McDaniel says no. Carries a lot more speed to the inside. Robinson is going to give a hefty shove to Ogle from behind. Two teammates working together. McDaniel has nothing for it. But he's going to continue to try his best here on the inside line. These drivers still continuing to be side by side. McDaniel is not giving up. Root for the underdog, the one machine. I shouldn't tell you how to root or who to root for, but hey. When the two teammates are ganging up on the one guy, surely we've got to go for McDaniel, who keeps the first place spot now. Ogle and Robinson are left wondering, what do we have to do to make our way around this guy, as McDaniel continues to hold on to the first place spot. 18 laps to go, coming to the line. It's going to be 17. Ogle once again on that high side. Josh once again moves up to support. McDaniel says no, holds firmly to that apron, and is not letting this one go at all. This race continues to be a very, very heated one. Ogle does have a nose in front right now. It's going to be Ogle at the line. McDaniel does still have enough alongside, though, to make his place known. And Robinson has backed off, almost deciding, I'm just going to pay attention. I don't want to get involved in this one. Dan Hill is, I think, catching up ever so slightly as well. Ogle, it looks like, actually may have touched the wall just a little bit. McDaniel taking advantage of that as he goes back towards the lead. Phenomenal side-by-side racing. You couldn't ask for more side-by-side racing. The 1 and the 11 continue to be side-by-side. I don't know how many laps it's been. It's been more than 10 at this point, surely. As McDaniel and Ogle continue to be side-by-side. Robinson is trying to help Ogle get to the front, but McDaniel is making it impossible. Those two tires must be wearing on the mind of McDaniel, but he is not thinking about it too much as he is trying desperately to keep as much momentum in that machine as possible. Stay in front of Ogle right now. These two get very, very close together. Thankfully, no contact being made. Ogle definitely ahead right now. McDaniel's going to have to send it in. That's about as low as he could go on corner entry, and still manages to keep it too wide for the moment. Unbelievable racing from these guys. Ogle's taken the spot away, though. Robinson pushes him to the lead. And Ogle is going to have the spot. McDaniel tries to fire back with every fiber of his being. You can see Dan Hill is closing the gap ever so slowly as well. McDaniel still holding on strong. There is no quit in this guy. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. These two drivers continue to be side by side. Absolutely incredible. You can see Hill is closing. That's all this battle is doing. for Dan Hill, but up front, no one's thinking about what it's doing for anyone else apart from themselves. And McDaniel holds on to the lead. Shuts the door on Ogle for the moment. Ogle immediately jumps back out to the outside. McDaniel, phenomenal driving. He has managed to stave off these Titans behind. Certainly a Titan earning a Titan status in his own right, if not from previous races in this one itself. The one machine with 10 to go, still out in front. Ogle and Robinson still there. Dan Hill is catching closer. 2/10 every single lap. Robinson passing Ogle now, deciding, you know what, Ogle, let me have a go. Ogle says, I couldn't do it. It's up to you now, Josh. So here comes Robinson, the all-star race winner. The one who saves tyre better than everyone. The one who is a cyborg. Maybe he's not, but we're definitely thinking he may well be, as these drivers actually gained a 10th on Dan Hill just then. Dan Hill, I think, may be a little bit too far back to be a factor in this one, but we'll have to see as it continues to shake out. 8 laps left to go. Robinson trying to see if the high line will be a viable option, as Ogle wasn't able to do it. McDaniel does not want to give up that inside line. Has been serving him so well so far. Robinson carries a lot more speed on that high side line. McDaniel is trying desperately not to let him go. Robinson just so quick. It looks like McDaniel's going to have his work cut out for him. This battling now has slowed up the pace a little bit. Hill is coming once again. You can see the really dark grey number 7 machine making his way through. The Air Force backed car is coming quickly. 23 and the 1 still fighting desperately. Ogle hanging back now. It looks like there's going to be a little bit more of a run from Robinson. Robinson does take over the spot quite significantly right now. McDaniel, it makes me wonder if he's used up too much tyre, trying desperately to stave off these two drivers as Ogle now moves to the outside. Here is Hill. He's made his way up. He's going to be absolutely ecstatic to see himself in this position. He desperately wants to get himself into a podium spot. Ogle right there in front. I'm not sure it's going to be an easy one to get, though, that's for sure. Josh Robinson still under fire, though. Don't get him wrong. McDaniel is not letting him go. These 4 drivers by themselves out in front, a considerable margin. Dan Hill has worked his way so hard to get himself up there. McDaniel has been fighting tooth and nail with these two guys this entire time since the caution flag had disappeared and we got a green instead with more than 40 to go. 4 laps left to go now as Josh Robinson crosses the line. McDaniel still in second, Ogle in third, Dan Hill still sitting in the 4th place spot. McDaniel desperate not to let Ogle have that inside line. It's been doing nothing but serving McDaniel's absolute purpose. And he is desperate not to let Ogle have it. Ogle wants it though. It looks like there's a little bit of a touch, a little bit of a bump. Say, hey, come on. We got to go. Dan Hill is circling. Dan Hill smells the podium positions just in front of him. He's catching quick. He's going to be trying to make the move on Ogle right now. Dan Hill from more than 2 seconds back in 40 laps has made his way up by himself and taken that 3rd spot away. I'm getting extremely excited up here in the booth because Dan Hill has just made his way into the 3rd place position. 2 laps left to go. Robinson still in the lead. McDaniel still in second. Will Ogle have anything back for Dan Hill to try and get into the podium spots once again? Been a phenomenal day of racing. We've had long green flag runs. We've had short green flag runs. We've had cautions. We've had big accidents. White flag coming out this time by Josh Robinson. Looks like he might take the win barring any incidents, but will Hill be able to pass McDaniel now? Hill has been absolutely flying. The Air Force back machine with the afterburner on tow, trying to squeeze in front of McDaniel and manages to do so. Dan Hill out of nowhere, able to manage a second place finish here. It looks like Josh Robinson takes the win. Dan Hill in second, incredibly, with McDaniel holding on to a top 3 after taking 2 tyres. What a race. Ogle on that high side line, trying desperately against McDaniel, lap after lap after lap, hooking those right side tyres. And that has not helped him at all, paying dividends off for these 3 front runners. A phenomenal race indeed. Absolutely incredible. Memorial Day weekend, not disappointing, as I have a drink of water up here in the booth and prepare for some interviews. We're going to let you know Josh Robinson, Dan Hill, and Greg McDaniel taking home our top 3 spots. And we will roll through the rest of the field as we take that drink and we watch Josh Robinson have some celebratory burnouts. As we wait up here in the booth for the drivers to make their way into the waiting room, we have Greg McDaniel. We have Dan Hill. Just waiting on to make his way up here tonight. It has been an absolutely amazing day of racing, and I'm sure you can agree with me. That finish, probably the best finish I think I've ever seen under green flag in my whole broadcasting career. That was absolutely phenomenal stuff, and these drivers should be extremely proud of themselves for such a phenomenal effort to even make it to the finish line, let alone the performance we saw right at the end there. Absolutely incredible. All right, well, we will get drivers' interviews underway as we don't have everyone yet. We've got Josh Robinson a little bit late to the waiting room, but that's okay because he is the last one we will talk to. So we will get Greg McDaniel in here first. Greg, how you feeling? And what a race, man.
Yeah, that was crazy. I don't know. I've never raced that hard for a position in this league in my life, I don't think. And the whole time Tom and I were battling, I knew Dan and and Josh were back there just cruising along, and they were probably loving it. And as it turned out, they they finished 1-2, and not Tom or I. So I guess I don't know. It was a lot of fun though.
Well, I got to tell you, Greg, we've seen you up here in the booth before, and we know you've got pace week in and week out, but I honestly thought I saw a different side of you tonight. I've never seen anyone battle so hard and do such a great job of holding off none other than Tom Ogle, by the way.
Well, it didn't quite last long enough on that last caution when we pitted. I don't think very many. I think everybody took 4 tires, and the car rotated. It would get loose later in the run in our practice session last night, but it was very hard to get this car to get loose and rotate. So I just took a gamble on that last pit stop, and I only took right sides, hoping that maybe it would loosen the car up some. And in the beginning of the run, it did, but it driving it that hard, of course, it tightened right back up. And luckily, with it tightening up and slowing down, I could stick the lefts right on that when I was battling with Tom. If I stuck the lefts right on the apron when I was entering and going around the corners, it would hold it down, and I could get a little rotation. But eventually, driving it that hard, they gave up.
Well, I tell you, we could not look away, and your tires may have given up in the end, but you still ended off with a third place finish. And I just want to say as well, that two tire stop, that was such a gamble. We were wondering, with not just myself but Martinson in the spectator area as well as others, wondering, was it going to work? And I mean, you showed that it definitely could, and you were fighting tooth and nail for so long, and really Dan Hill almost came out of nowhere to take your spot away.
Yeah, I could see him back there. There was only 7, maybe 8 cars on the lead lap when we took that last green flag, and I could just barely see him in my mirror when I would look back. So I knew he was back there, and I definitely knew Josh was back there, just probably grinning, grinning ear to ear, watching Tom and I go at it, burning up our tires. And but no, running that hard, and that's the benefit of this league. You can you couldn't race with like that with somebody in a public. That battle would have come to an end in 1 or 2 laps. Somebody would have crashed somebody out, and it would have been over. You never get to experience that stuff. So I didn't win, but I had a lot of fun, and had a lot of fun with people I like racing with, and enjoy chatting with when we're practicing and getting ready for these things. So all in all, it's just about as good as a win.
All right. Well, Greg McDaniel, we absolutely love talking to you. You're all around good guy, I think, is the best way to describe you. And, we love talking to you. So, who would you like to give a shout out here before we let you go? Third place finish, definitely nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, I want to thank Aerologs, Admin Box, and Butt Kicker for the stuff they do for our leagues. Like to thank Kim Bowl and Victory Lane Sports. Like to welcome our leader Dwayne back after he was gone for a week. Welcome back, Dwayne. Also, my fellow admins Clay and Crisco wasn't here tonight. Brian Lindsay. Uh, Unfortunately, oh, I think Clay Walker's night ended a little early tonight too, and I think that was all the admins that raced tonight. So, and friend Dave watching back at home, thanks for watching and taking an interest in this, and thanks to you, Gareth and Goon Squad for doing such a great job broadcasting these.
Thanks, Greg. Hopefully, we did you justice.
I'm sure you will. I'm excited to watch that last stint, so I'll be watching it here very soon.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good one.
Yep, you too, my friend. Take care.
All right, that was Greg McDaniel bringing it home in third. Up next in the second position, Dan Hill bringing it home. Dan, where did you come from?
Well, I mean, I saw those three up there racing pretty pretty hard there, and I kind of just try to save my tires, but run really hard because I knew I had to really make up that time, and I just try to save the tires, and just got lucky that they were running so hard against each other, and it gave me a chance to get up there and compete for a win almost.
Well, I tell you, I mean, they may have been eating up their tires, but you seem like it was just I was watching the gap, it just closing, closing, closing. Your Air Force machine. You got to let me know. Are you sure there wasn't an afterburner put in there?
No afterburner, but I'll tell you what, man, I mean, I was driving the wheels off it. That's for sure. I mean, that last run, you really had to drive it deep into the corner, and I mean, it would just get on the brakes so hard, and I mean, it really felt like, I felt like I was over driving the car, but then I just, started seeing the times tick down. I was like, well, I'm gonna try to see if I can get up there, and and luckily, as I said, they kept fighting each other and just kept coming, and I, made something out of it.
Absolutely. No quit attitude is definitely the way to go. But tell us how sore did your arms feel after the end of that run? Because I tell you, I reckon you were ripping it around so quick. You must have been aiming at 90 degrees almost every corner.
Yeah, my shoulders. That's where I always feel shoulders and neck. Like I get real, real tensed up, and I'm just, trying to hold the wheel in a certain position, and you're trying not to slip because I mean these guys are so good that you make one tiny mistake and you'll lose 2 tenths, 3 tenths on, like nothing. So you have to. I mean, you have to be precise against guys like Josh, Tom, and Greg and Dwayne. I mean, you can't make any mistakes.
Yeah, now Dan, we did hear from the spectator area, we were wondering, is Josh Robinson a cyborg? What is your opinion on that one?
Oh, he's definitely AI. I have no doubt in my mind he's definitely not from this planet.
All right, well that answers that one. All right, well Dan, before I let you go, who would you like to sign off with? Shout out to sponsors, friends, family, anyone watching at home. It's been absolutely phenomenal, and I tell you what, without you, we wouldn't have had such an amazing finish. So definitely give us a big shout out here for the second place spot.
Yeah, this is kind of a special race for me. I come from a family with a rich military history, and I currently serve. My dad served. His dad served. His dad's brothers served. I have three of their names on this car. It's kind of a dedication to our family's history. Not all Air Force. Some Army. Some me and my dad were Air Force. My grandfather was Army. And so it's really special to come out and perform well with this car. It's actually the best performance I've had with it, and so it feels really special to do it on a Memorial Day weekend. So I love it.
That sounds great. I have to ask you just briefly. I know I shouldn't be doing this, but as part of the Air Force, have you ever come down? Do you ever do like air shows and events and stuff, or like or are you just more involved in the actual military aspect itself?
I've worked air shows where for the different airframes that I've worked, we would you would be there to answer questions from all the spectators that come and stuff. I've never worked the Thunderbirds or anything like that. I've definitely, I was at Nellis Air Force Base, which was home to them, and I've been in their hangar a few times. But I've definitely been to a few air shows and worked them. Given my information that I know about the aircraft and can kind of talk to people. So it's really nice to get out there and spend time with the general public because they don't really get that opportunity very often to come on base and see what we do. So
Oh, sounds great. Yeah, no, I was just I was just wondering because there was recently a air show in Australia. I was wondering if you almost came down here. Gotta be honest.
it would have been awesome. I would love to come down there, but no, never been that far.
All right. Well, we'll let you go and stop talking about potential random meetings, which would have been amazing. Um, so I will let you go and have a great night. And unfortunately, you couldn't get the top spot, but maybe next week.
Yes, sir. Thanks for all you guys do there at Team Goon Squad. You guys are awesome.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, that was Mr. Dan Hill in the second position. Up next, the man, the myth, the cyborg, the AI legend, Josh Robinson. What is going on with your head? I know you've got a whole lot of ones and zeros going on in there. There's been a lot of debate in the spectator area and with some of the drivers. Are you a cyborg? Are you human? What's going on?
last I checked, I'm still human, but I sometimes, man, I'm kind of speechless right now because that was such a hard run race. Greg and I were just talking in the waiting room there about how hard we ran, and I told Tom was running the crap out of his car too, and whew, there was not room for error there.
Well, speaking of, I actually forgot to ask Greg. I forgot to ask Greg that low side line. Tell me, was it the low side advantage or was it just how hard he was running more than anything else? Because it seemed like it was easy to get next to him, but even you, of all people, your cyborg brain, found it very, very hard to actually make that pass. It still took you quite a number of laps, even with what I'm assuming would have been a lot fresher tires than McDaniel or Ogle ever had.
100%. That was an incredibly hard pass, and honestly, the only reason I made that pass is because Greg got a little bit of the apron and had to check up just a hair. If he doesn't do that, I think we're still side by side.
Well, I tell you, that was looking good. And I have to ask as well. I mean, it's all focused around the last 40 laps, I know, and I shouldn't be doing that. But it took the wind out of my sails. It was such a great race at the end there, and I have to say, were you at all scared with Dan Hill coming up behind? I've seen a couple of spectators wondering if Dan Hill had a couple more laps, Josh might have been in trouble.
Short answer, yes, I was, because Dan's a good driver, and the three of us were running so hard up there, and the high side was not doing any favors to my tires. So I think if we have a 10 more laps there, Dan cruises on by and doesn't even have an issue driving right by me.
All right. Well, I will say, Josh, that it's been incredible seeing you. You won the All-Star race as well. I actually have to say one more question. With winning the All-Star race, did that give you a little bit more confidence, a little bit more no- peace of mind and knowledge about Charlotte Motor Speedway that came into this race that you ended up implementing to the actual race itself?
Not a whole lot. Everyone here runs hard, runs fast, runs clean. Uh, so that's going to carry over into both races. It's always a little bit of a confidence boost when you get a win. So subconsciously that definitely occurred. But between a short track and a mile and a half here, I honestly I can't believe I had any rubber left on my tires after as hard as we ran in the last 30 laps there.
All right. Well, it did seem like your typical what's that? What's that running race where the 400 meter? It felt like that where it's not long enough to be an endurance race, but it's not short enough to be a sprint race. It's that kind of in between, and you're trying to sprint the whole time. That's what that last run felt like from a spectator's point of view.
Oh yeah, we were all running out of gas at the end.
All right, sounds good. Well, Josh, I'm gonna let you go because I know we could probably talk on for ages, but maybe not as much as Ogle can for sure. But I will let you go. Have a great time. And also, before I do that, though, as always, give a shout out. Who's watching? Let us know what you're thinking. Final, another win here at Charlotte Motor Speedway and another win overall. I think that's 5 for you right now, plus the All Star. So just let us know what's going on through your head.
Yeah. Thanks to the league, thanks to the league admins and Dwayne and Victor for keeping this league going, and then all the admins for their hard work they do all week. Thanks to Goon Squad and to you, Gareth, for putting on the broadcast. I have so much fun going back and watching these and watching the spectators and those guys putting in the chat. It's always good to get the viewership and just enjoyable to run. And then thanks to my teammates, we were bouncing ideas off of there. Except for the last 30 laps, Tom and I kind of went radio silent, except when I was giving him a hard time. So
Well, I'm sure it was all thoughts on making sure you make it to the line and as high a position as you can do. Maybe a bit of Ogle upset with his tire fall off and not making a podium here to speak to me tonight. But, you know, that sometimes happens and it is what it is, I guess. But,
I appreciate it, Gareth.
yeah. Yeah, sorry, I've realized I left you hanging with like nothing there. But Look, I will let you go, Josh. Have a great time. Definitely celebrate. Have some champagne or some wine or some beer, however you do what you do. And I will talk to you next week. Just before you go, answer this very quick question. How do you feel about your chances at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway? Because that is the longest name of any track ever.
That'll be a fun track to race. We usually have to shift there in 1 and 2, but I don't know how the setup will be this time around. You're going to see a couple guys like Mike Watts that are good on road courses. That track has, coming out of 1, going into 2 there is a little bit like a road course, so I think you'll see him run really well. But I'm looking for Dwayne to put the foot down and just go on that one.
All right. Well, keep tabs on that, and we will see you probably, if not next week, I'm sure in recent weeks coming up soon. So, see you then, and have a good celebration.
Have a good night, Gareth.
All right, that was Josh Robinson wishing me a good night, and I will extend his wishes as well. Good night to everyone. Thank you for tuning in, as always. We are Team Goon Squad, bringing you the action that is the Old Bastards Racing League Kimball Cup Series in 1080p, 60 FPS, if my Australian internet can allow it. And I will see you next week, same time, same place as always. Have a great night, enjoy yourselves, and I will see you at Gateway. Have a good one.